Good morning, Australia. Good evening, North America. It's that time again. It's another edition of Talking Baseball Australia Live. Let's roll the open in 3, 2, 1. Here we go with a busy show on tap.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughn. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the mound.
Oh man. I don't know what to say, and I'm just going to pause for a moment, unmute his mic, bring him on, because I'm speechless. It's weird. I'm sort of speechless, but I've got a lot of things to say. I can't really describe where I'm at. There he is, Paul Morgan in the West. I'm Dan Vaughn. We're Talking Baseball Australia. We're baseball's best mate, and we're flabbergasted, as many of you probably are. First off, good morning to you, my friend.
Morning, DV. Well, it's been a week, hasn't it? What? Not even a week, 24 hours. It was sort of an uneventful week, and then all of a sudden, in the last little while, it's just, boy, it's gloves are off, folks.
They are off. On the show, we're going to talk about one thing and one thing only. All the news, and in case you missed it, the news that two teams will not be playing in 2021 of the Australian Baseball League, that being Geelong Korea. We'll talk about them to a lesser degree, but mostly we're probably going to be talking about the Tuatara of Auckland and what those ramifications are. I want to invite y'all, if you're interested, and I'm going to throw this open because we've done this a couple times. We don't have a guest schedule because we got a lot to talk about. I want to hear from y'all. I want to hear from you, the fan, you, the folks. There's two ABL fan groups. A lot of folks follow us. A lot of folks that follow the league. If you have something to say, you want to ask it, or just your own opinion, I want to see it. Let us know. I'll even be more than happy. That's what the show is. We want your comments and questions. We always do that. But if you really are keen to jump on, you really think you've got something to add, I'll even give you the form and give you the green room. I will put the link up there. I'll do it now, and I'll also put it up there in the chat as well. But if you really think you got something to add, I'm all for it, okay? Because I think this is really one of those things that talking about it as a group may help us all. But again, good morning, Matt. Good to see you. In case you missed it, first off, two announcements yesterday. The first one was, I think we sort of expected, partner, that Geelong Korea would not play. I mean, we've talked about it here on the show. It was going to be an uphill battle for those folks to play in the Australian Baseball League this year. And then the news coming later in the day that the Tuatara aren't. Not only are they not playing, that their future seems to be in the ditch, so to speak, that separates Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Spot on. It's look, there's a lot to it, and I think you back the truck up a bit. I mean, it's not the sort of the end point, I guess, of yesterday was a long time coming. Of course, the Tuatara initially at the start of the year, DV, or started when we started back in this show, and again when we took it off dry dock around July. I mean, the Tuatara were the savior of the ABL. We had them, them starting the hub in Auckland, and it was all going to be great because, all the teams were going to go to Auckland. New Zealand was on board. Then that sort of hub fell apart. And at that point in time, that's when you probably felt, well, okay, maybe Auckland put a question mark against them. And then it's sort of, from what we understand, DV, they sort of flip-flopped in. They were in, then they were out, then they were in, then they were not, we're out. Then they're like, no, we're in. And then ultimately led to we're out. So in the meantime, you've, of course, got, the Adelaide Giants and the Brisbane Bandits, who are supposed to be part of that international conference. So now the whole schedule needs to be rejigged. And clearly, I don't think Cam Vale, Baseball Australia, and the Auckland Tuatara are on each other's Christmas card list anymore because there was certainly some fairly robust wording in a press release from Baseball Australia Mismanagement was probably the key term with the Tuatara. We know that the Tuatara, from what we understand anyway, should we say, the Tuatara had all the ability to play this year, including government support, but they've chosen not to. And I think from my perspective, David, I don't know how everyone else feels about it. I think it probably should have just been a case of Auckland Tuatara not playing due to COVID-19 and the ramifications of COVID-19. In the background, the whole taking the license away, probably should have happened. I feel the airing of dirty laundry is not good for anyone, but it is what it is. It's a clear wedge between Auckland and Baseball Australia now, DV, and we sit and wonder if the Tuatara will ever play in the ABL again, or will the license go somewhere else. But it certainly, at this point in time, it doesn't seem like it'll just be all forgiven and forgotten by next season.
No, there's no doubt. And they're out on the screen right there. You see, that was just one of the websites, and there were several. This was picked up all over New Zealand sports pages and news outlets in New Zealand over the course of the last 24 hours or so. Let me go ahead. I can put on the screen for you guys, but it's a little small. Let me go ahead and give you guys just kind of a read, if you will, the bullet points quickly here. Auckland, the Tuatara informed Baseball Australia was withdrawing from the 2021 Australian Baseball League. The Tuatara formally notified the league of the decision at 10:04 Australian Eastern Time, which would have been the 12th yesterday. Now, remember, we did know, Paul, that we thought the 12th was the drop-down date. This is not a Friday the 13th joke. Baseball Australia Chief Executive Cam Vale issued the following statement. Baseball Australia was told of Auckland's intention to withdraw on Monday the 9th. So this goes back to Monday. This apparently was not going. That's first point number one. This goes back. Well, we'll come back to all this. I just want to read it to you. We'll come back to this. They were strongly advised to reconsider their position. They've chosen not to reverse that decision. Auckland agreed to the international conference model in August, and no significant circumstances have changed to create their withdrawal. If anything, there was improvement in their position to play this season with New Zealand government support. Point number two we'll get to. Whilst COVID is proving extremely challenging, all ABL teams committed to this season on 4 separate occasions as recently as Monday, November 2nd. So that's now 2 Mondays in a row that this has been recent. Teams have been given multiple opportunities to change their position, which Auckland hasn't wavered from this model up to this week. Therefore, issues cited by Auckland, such as quarantine and flight cost, whilst challenging, should have been better managed and addressed weeks, if not months ago. Point C. Alternatives were presented to Auckland to mitigate these costs. They chose not to. The decision by Auckland is extremely disappointing on a number of the fronts. And here's where it goes very scorched earth, mate. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the points that the league gets to. They have no reason to withdraw. This is the point. This is the league speaking, ABL. They had no reason to withdraw at this time as their position of their conference was a cost-reduced hub model, of which the principles to this model have not changed since August 2020. Point two, they have undone an enormous amount of work, if I can read, done by the ABL, Brisbane Bandits, Adelaide Giants on a hub model of 7-inning baseball broadcast internationally. And then 3, the decision was cost International Conference a valuable broadcast partnership with Sky Sports and a key accommodation partner. We will get to that. The 4 teams, the Australian Conference, need to make adjustments to accommodate a one conference model. I'm going to get you some information on that as well. In Auckland, where they're offered some form of government support. It goes on to say the reason for this withdrawal is best summed up as being due to mismanagement by Auckland. Pretty much damning information there. Whilst the ABL and other teams see strategic importance of New Zealand-based team in the league, the ability for Auckland to compete in future seasons is now in serious doubt. The current ownership is in breach of the ABL license agreement. They'll be given 28 days to address this. The decision of their future involvement will be made by the league and other teams in due course, the board of directors of the ABL. Right now, we have a 6-team league to finalize so we can move ahead and play ball. So if you missed any of that in the news, that's the thing. So I had to at least get that out there for you, get you guys out there what exactly happened. So with that statement, there's a lot in that. There's a lot of good. There's a little good. There's a lot of bad. And there's a lot of, as I said in the ditch. First off, and I think you made this point to me earlier in our chat we had. Let's just kind of go through the points. We're assuming a 6-team tournament now, right? Is that we're thinking now that all teams playing each other in some kind of hybrid? Is that what we're thinking, mate?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Early indications are potentially a hub, 2-3-team hubs. So let's just say it'd be Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. So I think the model of the 3 home series is probably not going to change. So you would think it's going to be. I would think it's probably makes more sense as you've got one. It makes more sense in my mind of the 2-3-team competitions. I would suggest it's Brisbane, Melbourne, Canberra in one, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Perth in the other. And then Perth. Then let's use Adelaide. Adelaide would host Perth and Melbourne, and then have an interleague game as well. I think that's the most likely scenario you're going to find to come out of this. And then the two. Maybe it's the top 2 teams of the conferences go and play in the sort of the last final series. But I know, and Jared's got it there. 5 weeks, everyone plays each other once. I'm not sure that's the way they're going to go. It could be, but I think the fact that they've had conference systems in place, I don't see this year they're moving away from a conference system. So that's what I early signs is I believe is happening, but I could be wrong, DV.
Let me tell you what I can tell you from and I will not, my source will not be named because I've just not going to do that. I'm not going to but I can tell you more than one owner or upper management, let's say, because it's not actually owner, upper management have told me in the last 10 hours that they're now on a holding pattern because, they have the Australian Conference has their opening weekend. But outside of that, they don't know where it may fly, or where it may change. Now, remember, the league did have a 6-team model for a number of years. You and I can recall the model back 12 through, well, really year 1 until what, year 2017. Well, 1917, that'd be a long ways ago. They've been taken. But I want to let Chris come on in a moment. Let him sound off. Give me just a moment, Chris. I'll get you on there. But normally, I think this wouldn't be a problem because you just, 2 teams go away and you just go play 6. But the problem is you've got 2 conferences and 2 different schedules. So you've got all these teams that are going to play on a certain date, and now they're not sure where they're going to play next. And that's the problem. So these teams are tapping their toes trying to get commercial agreements out there, trying to get members, groups, corporates, and they don't know when series number 2 is going to be. So actually, Chris, I was going to put you on there, but you disappeared from me, mate. So again, if you guys are interested, I'm going to put this up on the screen again and let you guys, sorry, I'm just now getting caught up here. If you guys want to jump in and sound off, personally, I'd be more than happy to put you guys on. One thing that was mentioned as well, Stuart said, an emotional day yesterday. The Tuatara will be around in 21-22, which we're going to get to that in a moment. The response to the ABL needs to only be, you need us more than you need. I'm sorry, but try to get, you need us more than we need you. We're going to get to that in a moment, but I think that's a very good point, Stuart, and we're going to talk about those ramifications in just a second. I guess the frustrating part, and I think this is where fans, if I'm a member of the Melbourne Aces, Perth Heat, Sydney Blue Sox, Canberra, whoever, if I've got a membership and I've already spent my bucks and I've already, made an investment in what's probably going to be a socially distanced, limited capacity crowd anyway, I'd like to know where my bucks are going to go. What games am I going to get to see? What matches will I actually be able to attend? How many do I get? Or will I be or now is my schedule? And remember, some people plan their holidays around these things. I mean, you can't. It's hard to do business as a sports team, and you know this. Let's just use the Toronto Blue Jays as an example. They already have their fixture out for next year, and season ticket holders are already planning, or people are already planning corporate events next summer, hoping that they're going to be able to attend. And something got to, it's hard to make plans in less than or basically a month. So that's what they're up against, mate. That to me, I think is the big. It's going to have a lot of folks in a hussy because I mean they can't make those plans.
Well, one thing the one advantage that ABL does have now is, and I know it was Graham who's mentioned, Sydney still can't travel to Brisbane. There are still issues around the fact that like Adelaide, so Adelaide, Canberra, Brisbane are free to travel to Perth in and out without quarantine. So it does give them an opportunity now to make the fixtures a bit. A bit more easy from a quarantining point of view. New South Wales can't get into Queensland, so it could well be that it's slightly different as well. Could well be that it's Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, or Brisbane, Canberra, Perth in a conference because the travel is easy between those three cities. So,
Chris, you're on. Can you hear us, Chris? Do you hear us? Chris, do you hear me? I got Chris got him on. Do you hear us, mate? We've never done this before. I've got him on, but I'm going to bring him back down again and try him again.
It's like when we used to bring Michael Ullman to air back in the day.
Back in the. I know a lot of folks have a lot of things to say, so I'm going to try him again and see if I can get him up there and unmute him as well. Chris, can you hear me, bud? Well, okay, we lost him there. Some great things to get to here, but again, I'm more than happy to let you guys hop on. Or you want to do what Stuart did. Let me read this to you guys. Let me do this on the screen here. We are now 5 weeks away from the season. We don't know who's playing. We're at any point people to organize Christmas, New Year gatherings, interstate travel on the schedules. While there's much admiration for the ABL's work to get where we have, the communication to people since April has been unsatisfactory for a professional sporting organization. And that exactly is kind of what I'm going to tell you. Let me try Chris one more time. Chris, you got me, bud? Your microphone on? Bueller? Michael Ullman, are you there? Chris, your mic's not coming through, but let me try it again. Do you got us there, bud? Well, he's not going. The link's there, guys, so I don't know what's going on there, but we'll keep trying. Your camera and your link, much like Zoom. Stuart, let me say, and I told this to somebody on Twitter about a half hour ago. I plan on being in Australia at some point for the season, like I do every year. I can't tell you when. I mean, and granted, and you throw the actual extra curveball in, that's got to go through the government and all that. I got to get to those details, but I don't know when. I have a fixture out I'm looking at, but I don't know with any certainty that we believe what all these teams have all pretty much said. At least Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Canberra have all said we're going to play those first series. Although the Canberra-Perth thing, maybe, as you mentioned a moment ago, sort of dicey, but they're all planning at least playing one series. From there, anyone's guess. I mean, that's the frustrating part right there. The whole league should have been announced together, not Australian. Again, hindsight there, but I think you're right. A good point there, Jared. I'm going to put that up on the board there. Graham says he still can't travel to Brisbane as well. I'm playing catch up here. Sorry about this, guys. But again, I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't get you. I don't know why we couldn't hear your audio. Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. Okay. Where were we? We were talking about the actual reshuffling. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so DV now, we look at a new schedule coming out, which you'd think would have to come out by, this week. I mean, we're talking December 18th is supposedly the first game here in Perth, which is, in 4 or 5 weeks' time. We're supposed to have baseball here, Canberra taking on the Heat for the opening series. That series, from all reports, will easily go ahead because quarantine is not going to be an issue at that time from Canberra for WA, and at the same time, we know that game has been scheduled for a little while, so we know there's not really going to be an issue there. But I guess the big point now, though, Dan, is we've alluded to before, like the comments around the Tuatara and the ramifications for the license. There's two schools of thought here. I mean, it's if you have a mortgage and you don't pay your mortgage, you sign a contract with the bank, and then you don't fulfill your commitment, and then the bank takes your house off you. We know that this year there were multiple teams at multiple times who were relatively interested in not playing. It certainly hasn't been as civil as everyone may or may not think it has been over the last few months. But everyone's found a way to do it because everyone at the end of the day knew that their license condition, one part of being an owner, part of that license condition is if you have the capacity to play, you have to play. If you don't, you basically hand back the license and thanks for playing. So that's where the Tuatara are at now. What is your thoughts? What in your mind, what's the likelihood of Auckland, the ownership getting the license taken off them? I mean, do you anticipate seeing baseball in Auckland next year? And to Stuart's point, how important, I mean, Auckland are the only ones that have got a decent broadcast deal that can be broadcast in Australia and outside of Geelong, Korea. I mean, is like, give me your knee jerk. Do the owners change next year? Does the team move? Does the team not play?
Baseball will be played in New Zealand. Simple as that. It's like we talked about before we were on the air. You know, we're kind of chatting about this. It's like, it'd be like Manfred for the MLB commissioner coming out and saying, we're going to abandon the New York market. We're going to abandon the Los Angeles market. One of those two. We're just going to abandon it. Or, you know what? I'll use even maybe I'm under the radar. I'll use my home city, the Dallas-Fort Metroplex. We're going to pull out of the Metroplex. We're not going to have a team there. We're going to forgo 8 million eyeballs in a really pretty solid TV market, fourth largest market in the country. We're just going to not have a team there. That's short-sighted. The reason I believe they're going to be baseball because the league's not dumb. The league knows that there is what do you want to call it? The rainbow, or what is it? A pot of gold, you name it, golden goose, whatever you want to call it, it's there. In the only English-speaking television deal was in New Zealand. And by all accounts, the buzz was pretty good. The league will not let that market it may not look the same. They may change some branding. Who knows? But there'll be baseball there. Somebody will take that license over. Somebody will be there. And if not, I could even see a scenario where, I mean, the league will not let that place go. So let's just say the Tuatara folks right now are in breach and they go away. I guarantee you, whether it be the ABL, Baseball Australia, a major league club, somebody will come in there temporarily, even if they have to, and prop that baby up until they can sort things out. But I guarantee you, there'll be baseball there long term. There's no way in the world they're going to go away. This same thing happened. I know you guys probably hate me saying this with the Kansas City T-Bones. The T-Bone sale were for sale in 2019. And there was all this talk in the offseason of 18-19 that the T-Bones might go away. And actually, the newspaper in Kansas City, the Kansas City Star, actually had a story that the T-Bones might just disappear. What the story they got was the lease had gone away and the team was getting kicked out, but the team was being sold. And teams just don't disappear in the air. You wouldn't abandon a great ballpark like T-Bone Stadium and a great market like Kansas City in the minor leagues. You just don't let it just poof go up in smoke. You just don't leave and abandon a place. It doesn't work that way. You're just not going to poof let New Zealand baseball go up in smoke. So first off, step away from the edge, folks. There'll be baseball in New Zealand. Now, how that looks in the ABL, which the Tuatara are called something else, there'll be an ABL team there. I'm very certain, mate.
And interesting as well, we're just looking at the comments, DV, around communications from the ABL. David Penrose knows a thing or two about the communication. He's the one that does the communications for the ABL. So, and that's an interesting point that he raises with cricket. So the Big Bash just got released a couple of weeks ago. And what was quite interesting is I had a conversation with the Big Bash team, which they consider I'm in Perth. You can probably pick which one it was. A couple of weeks ago. And they God's honest, they had no clue whether games were going to get played in Perth or not, and didn't know what they were doing with their season. So, it clearly has its challenges. And now I think for David and the team of the ABL, the challenge is to move swiftly to re-announce the new schedule and continue the lines of communication. Something I want to touch with you, DV, as well with the Auckland situation. Obviously, a lot of players were signed for Auckland. We know Dylan Dunsworth has gone to the Perth Heat. We're assuming the remainder get the old thanks for playing. Because the reason why I say the remainder get the thanks for playing is we know a couple of weeks ago that, and I don't know whether the Auckland players were on this list or not. We know that the teams had to supply Baseball Australia with a list of players who are then getting sent on to the government for, in regards to them getting the exemptions of the visas. Were the Auckland players on that list or not? Are they available to play or not? Or is it just a case of, well, you're not on the exemption list anymore?
I would, again, I'm only speculating here, but my guess would be any players that were on their preseason roster would be open season, I would think, if they still want to come play in the league. No, I don't know what you do with your domestic players. I don't know what they do with those kids, but I would think the imports, and they announced some pretty big names, some former major leaguers that were going to come over. My question is, and this is where I start to kind of muddy the water a little bit. Apparently, what we've been seeing on the outside has been pretty good, but if you read the press release, there were some things behind the scenes, and I'm guessing. But what we were told, you told us last week about the Unsworth situation. He was basically asking those folks, "Hey, you guys going to guarantee we're going to play? If not, I want to play." They couldn't guarantee it. I don't know how many of those players were told the very same thing, but my assumption is whatever those players signed or agreed to would be open season for every one of them. But now most of those rosters, for the most part, those rosters are filled, I would think, those import spots. But, when you've got, and we've already talked about the putting the players through the government and getting them over. It's kind of hard to change the 11th hour now but that would just be my guess.
Adam Dobbs come in just saying Auckland players are being negotiated with amongst the three teams. So interesting, because we sort of know that. Yeah, we know Perth. I was going to say we kind of know that. I guess we kind of know Perth's roster's basically filled out. We sort of have a good idea who's coming there. Melbourne seems to be relatively filled out, so you'd assume potentially some Canberra, Sydney, maybe Brisbane, maybe Adelaide.
Yeah. Well, Adam's a pretty hard-working fellow, I can tell you that. And he's always looking to improve his product, and as well as the guys there in Melbourne, or all the league, they're all that. Yeah. Real quick before I go that road, I want to tell that David, and what David was saying, I want to reiterate this too. While a lot of folks are upset, Cam Vale was on with us, twice already. By the way, he's agreed to come on next Friday. He will be on this show next Friday. He told me that via email, so I'm looking forward to having him on next Friday. But let me say this. He mentioned to us kind of in joking, but he was serious about it. They'd gone through something like 29 different versions of a schedule 3-4 months ago. So, they're going back to the drawing board, but it's not like they don't have some ideas in place. They just got to make it work. The problem is now is that they've gone so far down the road, they've got to really do some hoops here and there. But they were preparing 6-8 weeks ago for something like this, and they can probably dust that off. And how far down the road the can's been kicked, I don't know. But I can tell you this: they are well prepared to put up some kind of fixture at some point. I guarantee, and it'll be sooner in the next very quickly. But I just know because Cam said that on our show. But back to what Adam was saying too. We've got a lot of stuff here to get to. You guys are really good today. Chris adding the Tuatara, a loyal fan base, is only 2 years. They're pretty furious to get sent down the river. There's a great group of volunteers, and we all want to be ABL. And we said in this show last week that we support what the Tuatara are doing. But again, I want to go back to, and I believe it was David Bonham is his name. He's one of the ABL fans, folks. David and I follow each other on social media. Here's the deal. It's the old divorce law, right? Old divorce court. There's his story, her story, and then the truth. I'm not saying that's the case, but I think there's more to the story here than meets the eye, because what everybody's seeing is the candy in the case there that, hey, everything looks great. But apparently there's some things behind the scenes that aren't so great. And that's the thing. Those are things we're not privy to. You and I as fans don't know necessarily, but as you mentioned, and I'll throw this out there. Think back to the Manny Ramirez deal. Remember, he was going to go to New Zealand, right? Right? Wasn't he going to go to New Zealand? Yeah. I mean, it was in the papers, right? But then he didn't. It's in
the papers. It must be right.
Yeah, it must be right? But they didn't go. remember, and Adam Dobbs, Sydney Blue Sox have got Manny coming over. My point is that should have been a small red flag that maybe it isn't all as it seems. And I don't know what behind the scenes. Everything I've dealt with those folks have been great, but we're not hearing the entire story, and that's my concern. And that's why I'm telling you guys that the league will A, not let this franchise go away, and B, whatever they do to salvage the franchise, they'll fix those issues, whatever those may be. And I don't know what those may be.
Elliott signed with Adams, so he signed with the club. I mean, look, Mikey Reynolds, where does he go back to Adelaide? Where does Mikey go? I mean, that's going to be an interesting story as well. I mean, Danny Valencia, he'll be a huge pickup. If anyone can get Danny Valencia, that'd be a great pickup for a team as well. And then, of course, Dylan Unsworth, we know he's gone across to the Perth Heat as well. So Justin Grimm as well, so that he'll help out someone from an arm point of view as well, DV. I mean, there's out of the blue as well.
And there's also this part of it too. Now, any baseball league, doesn't matter if it's Major League Baseball or the a minor league Class A league, those contracts are signed. They go to the league office, because I can tell you personally, I've dealt with contracts over the years. Player signs, we sign, league office gets it, they approve it. I guess the real question is, and I'll ask Cam Vale this next week, how many of those Tuatara imports were actually signed to contracts? And that maybe tell us more about what was going on behind the scenes. And we know that, let's say of those 5 or 6 names announced, only one was signed to a contract. That may tell us more about what was going on, because that has to mean when a player is signed, it'd be an Australian import, those contracts go to the league office because there's a point system in place. These aren't just kept in a drawer someplace. And, oh, by the way, we've got the league has a copy of that contract. That's how it always works. They got to double check to make sure and plus they got government, and visas and things of that nature. And you're paying players. Those are all tax reasons as well. So the league would know. And that's a question we need to ask Cam next week, partner. Are you able to tell those teams? I'm not sure what I missed here. I must be playing. Again, I think again, this happens all the time. Those contracts are null and void now. If they signed one, they're not losing. Tuatara aren't playing, so player A is now available for team whatever. So anyway, go ahead. I'm probably part of it.
With a good chat as well with Adam around that scheduling. So will it be a 16 conference or will it be a 3-team hub? It's I think that's going to be the interesting part of the week. I mean, my gut still tells me two 3-team options makes a little more sense, because you can kind of make it a bit more COVID easier travel wise. We're talking, it's hard to travel to Perth from Sydney and Melbourne. We know that at the moment, relatively straightforward from Adelaide, Brisbane, Canberra. So it makes maybe potentially a little more sense there to make it logistically less difficult on yourselves. Melbourne doing such a terrific job, though, from their COVID situation. You would imagine that, they've gone, I think they've gone 8 or 9, 10 days or something like that in a row with no cases. So they've got 2 weeks, may have been. They're going on beautifully. So you'd imagine that by the time that season rolls around, the COVID restrictions in Australia will probably be minimal, if any. So that really opens it up. But well, Adam's told me no split conference, so there you go.
Yes.
So my theory is shot to pieces. But well, there you go. 6-team league. So I would assume, and Adam, he could probably shed some light on. I assume round 1 would stay for at least Perth, Canberra, and whatnot. I would assume stays the same. But there we go. No split conference. So it's 6 teams. So then it is simply that philosophy. You'd imagine everyone plays each other once.
Well, it's not. Again, this is not something. This is
play
only
each other once. So
well, but we've done this before, right? Have we done this? Didn't we do this? Well, yeah, you pre-comp.
Played the home. You played the home and away. So
yes.
Prior, it was.
Yes.
You played everyone twice, so once at home, once away. But I would assume that everyone's still getting a 3-home series. Well, of course, that was the Australian conference theory. So you would assume you're still getting 3 homestands. So maybe you're playing everyone once and someone twice. I guess that's probably the theory.
Show's Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. My name's Dan Vaughn. My broadcast partner is Paul Morgan, as we're talking Crazy news here on the show. Again, in case you joined us late, we're glad you're along. First off, in questions, comments. By the way, I'll put that link up there again. If anybody does want to jump on in the green room, it's in there. You can jump in the green room and we'll get you on the show. But in case you missed it, you joined us late. Geelong Korea, we're going to talk about them because we haven't already talked about them. And the Auckland Tuatara will not play in the Australian Baseball League in 2021. And that's what we're talking about here and all the ramifications of that really bombshell news. The first shoe to drop was the quiet noise that I don't think anyone was surprised about. Geelong Korea was not going to play. I don't think that really surprised a lot of folks.
No.
But just overall, your thoughts. I mean, a lot of folks want to say it's the same situation, but from what I'm reading, while yes, COVID affects everybody because it affects all of our businesses are being affected by it, even everybody. But their big picture was the main reason.
Yeah, look, I think that just would have been an enormous challenge for them. But again, at the same time, I think they probably could have got a way around it. But look, I think it was a bit more difficult for Geelong Korea because they were dependent on that international hub. That didn't happen. Then, probably at the time of the decision, Victoria wasn't looking too flash from a COVID point of view. So, look, I don't think there's any. I think Geelong Korea. I think you've got no doubt that they'll be back next year. Clearly, a really important part from a broadcast piece. But I just think that I think those guys they're not interested. What has pricked my interest, though, DV, is Adam talking about the hybrid hub home and away model that involves 6 teams. So.
Yeah, he said that. Let me put that right there on the screen there for you guys to see. Talking about a hybrid hub, home and away model that involves 6 teams. That would answer too the question of length of season too, because you could do. They'd already talked about this, and you heard Cam talk about this on a couple of channels already. Cam Vale, that is, they were going to have some midweek games, and you could do some things like that and squeeze the season down into even a shorter window, I suppose. But your thoughts on that, partner?
Well, I still think there's that model that could potentially exist where maybe this is not the hybrid model, maybe it's different. But I mean, there's still that model that potentially, say, Adelaide, Melbourne, or say Adelaide, Adelaide, Sydney go to Melbourne, and the 3 teams play sort of round robins amongst each other over a 5-6 day period. There's still that sort of, I guess, potential, but season length is unchanged though, according to Adam. So we'll have to watch this space on the old hybrid model. And look, the other thing we have to watch the space on is what's happening now from a broadcast perspective. Is the KO deal still alive? Is it not still alive? Is that going to generate any money? Is it what's next from a point of view of if it does go into a hub model? What are we looking at the YouTube live again? Are we looking at rugby signed a great deal with Stan, of course, affiliate of Channel 9? Maybe is there options there? It's crazy, and our good mate Rick Stephen, of course, Team Spencer. I've talked about it before we get to Rick. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but got new lids out, Rick Stevens, at the moment.
Yes.
So the Team Spencer caps. So make sure you head over to Rick's socials to get the links. But Rick says, why should Auckland be penalised when the league gave teams an option to opt in or opt out? And it was a choice, not a demand to play.
Well, let me rewind the clock on Geelong Korea quick, and we'll compare the two situations. Yes, both teams, and I'm going to get to the broadcast thing in a moment, as I do have. I'll get to that. We've got a lot to get to, so just bear with us, guys. I'm glad you're along. First off, the Geelong Korea thing, I don't think anybody's surprised about that. As a matter of fact, we were on a broadcast conference call over the weekend, Phil and other broadcasters around the league, and we were all basically saying, without knowing, we were handicapping the whole thing, that we didn't believe that it was a 20% chance you'd see Geelong Korea this year. Remember, their situation's a little different in the sense that their revenue model doesn't include on the ground in Australia.
Yeah,
they're not trying to sell merchandise, groups. They will if they have to, but that's not their. They're not there for the other things that go on. Any of these licenses, these owners know it's not. It's a product of the field, in the stands, what you're offering in your concessions, your members, your entertainment, how you put your entertainment together during the game. Fans will be entertained. Those are all things that Geelong Korea, they're more worried about player development. That's their strict thing. So their issues are a little different. They don't really now, yes, they do affect obviously playing games in Korea in Australia, but their Australia model doesn't exist. It's mostly a facilitating a team on the fixture and giving you some great TV eyeballs. That is the bad news. You lose the TV eyeballs, but that'll be back. Korea is a baseball mad country. You guys, we all know this. You've been there personally, partner. You know what the Asia Series is like. You know what the KBO is like. We talked about it. We know that it's a crazy baseball culture. So they'll be back TV wise. They want to watch baseball on TV over there. So that should be a worry, correct?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and their revenue model is completely different, and that's sort of why, in a way, like you probably think that maybe the TV market would have been even more thirsty to watch them this year in Geelong, because in Korea, should I say, because there's not much going on. So,
Stuart makes the comment: 28-day show case notice would expire in a week before the commencement of the ABL season. I'm reading it off my phone here. Second worst PR news for the ABL to present at present will be to announce revoking the Auckland license. Again, you're right on, Stuart. You're right on. The league would be, okay, it's opening day, everybody. And oh, by the way, Auckland's done forever. I'm telling you right now, Auckland is not done forever. Now, how it looks, that's anybody's guess. But no one in their right mind is going to pull the plug. I mean, one of your strongest links is going away. You won't let that happen over the long haul, and it won't happen in the long haul. I'm convinced, and maybe I'm just crazy. Call me Texan, whatever. But I really believe that no one in their right mind is going to let Auckland go away. Now, granted, it may look different, and it may not be the same folks, but it will be there. It's like I told those T-Bone fans 2 years ago. T-Bone's baseball will play. Of course, we didn't play because of COVID, but we'll play down the road, which we do have a new owner. Somebody will play in Auckland. I don't know who it'll be. But somebody will be there. I mean, I feel very strongly about that. Let's see here. I'm going to go through the questions here. Financial concerns.
Is an interesting point.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
This point is really interesting. Because I think when our show started again, we've been going consistently on Fridays again since June, and we initially thought that, well, maybe all of this show stuff is nothing, because realistically, if teams were to play this year, you're asking owners to lose money, because there's no one's going to make money this year. I mean, if they do, hats off to them, and hopefully Adam has sold enough Manny Ramirez jerseys to cover the cost, but it's but look, you are definitely. I mean, we've talked about the fact that flight prices have gone up. Like, there could be reduced capacity at stadiums. We don't know what the different ramifications around the country will be. So we said, and I was quite strong on the point where I had Cam on a couple of times that really you're asking owners to lose money. But then, as Adam said, I mean, that's part of the license condition. I guess it is.
Yes.
The good times and the bad
yes.
times, and that's right now is as bad as it gets, and that's. I guess for all the ups, there are downs.
Yes, and I mentioned this several weeks ago, and I'm using the American Association. The most successful franchise in the association over the last few years is the St. Paul Saints. They lost 7 figures this year playing a limited schedule in limited crowds, and they played part of their season, about half of it, they played as a barnstorming, in a hub. They played a hub, then went home the last month. They lost 7 figures. That's a team that draws 8,000 folks per game. On a Tuesday, on a Friday, it don't matter. There's 8,000 people there. They lost their shorts. That's the team that Bill Murray's a part of, the actor, and the Mike Veck, the son of Bill Veck, the pioneer in baseball. What I'm telling you is all those teams in the association that played all knew they would lose something. And that's part of what you do. This business, and Adam knows this, you and I know this, the business model of what this is professional baseball. But let me be clear here. While it is the highest level of baseball in Australia, it's a minor league model at best. And that's not a knock. That's a fact. This is no slap in the face, but it's a small model. It's like, but the principles still exist how to make money, but it's not a major league model. Let's not confuse ourselves here. And there's no, in the minor leagues in the States, there is no TV deal. You have a radio deal, maybe a streaming deal. That's about it. You might have a game of the week. Now, St. Paul has TV games, but Kansas City, we don't. We have a radio station or radio stream. But what I'm telling you is your margin for revenue error is very small. You're not making, those owners don't get in the American Association. You don't buy the Kansas City T-Bones or the St. Paul Saints or the Sioux City Explorers. You don't buy those teams to make a mint. You buy those teams hoping you're a good civic member. You're able to provide some entertainment, maybe make a little bit of money at the end of the day, but you're not going to retire the islands and buy an island like, Leonardo DiCaprio. You're not doing that. That's not what you do. Your margin for error in some years, you get 4 or 5 rainouts that we had 2 years ago in Kansas City. That was bad for us. We lost 2 Friday night games. That was 6,000 people crowds. Your budget can't take those losses. You're not going to make up those beer sales and hot dog sales. You don't make those up. Those games go away when you play a doubleheader. That's why, and that's a whole different conversation why I hate doubleheaders in this league. But why would you ever do that to cut your revenues? But anyway, to the point. What I'm telling you is, on a good year, on a year when everything's going good, your margin for error is very small. Now, you throw in a pandemic, but it's like you said, partner, these owners all know the risk associated that you could lose your shorts or you can make a little bit of money. But you're not, but you take that a risk. It's just like open up the coffee shop down the street. You might make some money. You also might have a crappy product that might go broke. I mean, there's a risk involved in all these things. And that's what you assume the risk in. And this is a business, at the end of the day, in a minor league model. So maybe it's a little bit tangent. Sorry about that, guys. But
no, I agree, and I agree with you, DV. And look, and I see Rick's point of view as well. Because I was very strong early on, saying you are asking people to lose a significant amount of money. And now we know that last year, I think virtually every club lost money, or virtually all the clubs lost money last year in a good year. So you are asking owners to lose money, but again, that's part of the ride by the ownership model. That's what people signed up for. But
what we signed up for. Let me just say this to you guys.
Hey, we haven't made a dime.
Phil Herden, who's on here, voice of the Adelaide Giants. I mean, that's a guy that's a labor of love. What we do, this is what we do for labor of love. We call these games. This is what I do for a living, but I don't get paid for it. I call games for a living. I follow this game as a journal for a living, but we don't get paid for it. We're trying to build our channel. We're all in the same boat. So we all feel it. We know if this league was making money, we'd be calling games on network across Australia, but we're not. We know this. We all know we're in the same boat. We're in those stages of growth here. The league needs Auckland, no doubt about it. I agree with you, Jaden. I couldn't agree with you more. And Rick's 10 years in. I know the money's tight. There has to be a line in the sand. Business people, aren't in baseball to make money. That's for sure. That's right. It's a passion. I can tell you right now, I can tell you that's what it's about. These guys, yes, Bill Murray is an example of a celebrity that owns a team, but by and large, when the owner, let me tell you this, when the owners in Kansas City sold their team to the new ownership, they didn't collect a big profit, okay? Now, the team was worth a lot more, but they'd had some issues. But over the years, the worth of the team continued to rise, but they had some issues at the end. But in general, when a team's for sale, that's when you make your money. You make your money in the sell of the team. That's where your money is. When you sell the St. Paul Saints or the Brisbane Bandits, that's where you make your money. You don't make your money right now. That's in this minor league model. So anyway.
DV rounding third, heading for home. What do you expect transpires this week?
I think we'll see a fixture. I think we'll see it. Maybe even before the weekend's up, possibly. I know Cam does want to come on with us. He agreed to come on next week. He's all good. I'm going to try to get him on live. If not, I'll tape it shortly before, but we'll do what best we can do. I believe that we'll go forward, have a great year. I think there'll be again, remember, this was a 6-team league at one time. It's not like we are going backwards to go forward, but I think that, I think we'll see some cooler heads to a degree, but I think you're going to see, again, like we talked about off the air, now that you've kind of opened that can or opened that wound, we're going to learn more as well. We're going to hear more from Cam, I think, next weekend, because you've taken that Band-Aid off. You've exposed this situation, whatever that situation is. We're going to have to find out what it is. What about you? What are you thinking, partner?
Look, I think, yes, I think you'll find that this week you probably won't hear a lot of, obviously the Auckland players going to the three teams, as Adam alluded to. You'll get a schedule. I don't think you'll hear much more around the Auckland ownership point of view. I think that will probably I think that should go on the back burner for a little while. Probably will go for the back burner for a while. And yeah, look, I think there'll be. I think if you can get through this week, okay, the anticipation of, starting. I mean, realistically, next week, all your players. I saw there was a Gunnar Kynes in Melbourne. I believe he landed in Melbourne. He had himself set up. He put the mattress against the wall, was throwing against the mat. But you imagine that next week the players will all for the 14-day quarantine. You're going to have players probably start arriving next week. So it's interesting though. But look, this season will go ahead, as we know that, DV. I think we know that the ABL would be insane to let the Tuatara walk away. Will they have the same owners? I don't see that situation resolving itself, so I'm going to go out and say probably not. Will the Auckland Tuatara still be there? I think they definitely will be. But, there's much to pick.
There's one more note here I've got, a couple of notes I've got that we do believe. Now, we had a broadcast conference call with the broadcasters that weren't the league Okay, how do I explain this? The broadcasters that weren't Andrew Reynolds. Andrew Reynolds was the voice of the ABL, apparently. Well, he is. Apparently he is. But the broadcasters who called the local games, you and I, Phil, as I mentioned earlier, Chris Coleman, others, we had a conference call. I think every team was represented except for one. In Geelong, Korea, we didn't have them. So 7 of the or 6 of the 8 were represented. We were kind of pondering what was going on, but what we do believe is going to happen, that there is some kind of limited broadcast deal, and it's not a KO deal. Now, what that is and what it looks like, we don't know, but apparently it's going to be very heavily into North America. That's what I understand. Now, how often that works? Is it 1 game a week, 2 games a week, 3 or 4? I'm sorry, a series. Is it just the 1 game a series and you're on your own locally? None of us know. None of those broadcasters know. None of us knew, but that's what we believe is happening, that there's something going on broadcast-wise on a larger scope than we've had in the past. Now, it's hard to announce a broadcast deal when you don't have a schedule. So that's where we're at with the broadcast, but just throw it out there.
Well, we do know that last year, our broadcast in Perth and Christian Galopoulos, the part owner of the Perth Heat and owner of Showscreens, who put the production on the broadcast, all our games were going onto a platform called 11 Sports, which is in North America. You can find them 11sports.com, which is classes by the fans for the fans. So there was a distribution deal, unbeknownst to like a lot of people. So that I would imagine if that North American deal rolls up, 11 Sports is probably going to be highly likely. I would think as well from a broadcast deal, you probably will have a lot of the sport technology as well, which you and I called the game in Geelong, Korea, me from Perth, you from Dallas last year. Jaden, interesting question as well. Could you see another team coming into this league this season? It would be. It's almost. You could almost, DV, with and look, I don't think this part's going to happen, but you could almost, with the players coming over from Auckland, and if you really, and look, I don't think this is going to happen, but you could almost make a Team Australia team that could possibly play a lot of the other teams that would be heavily import focused if you wanted to. But I don't think there'll be another team come in though.
A little bit late in the game now. Because now it's a little late in the game. I've asked that question to 2 or 3 front office folks the last couple of weeks, because I actually thought, my original thought was, but Geelong Korea was going to try their hardest. Could you just plug in some Australian players and play out the Geelong Korea fixture? That option was not considered, and I believe they had talked. There was some rumor. We go back to, back in, was it July, August, that there was a talk about another team temporarily coming in to add a ninth team for the season. Remember, that was a big news months ago. That had been talked about, but I think once they got to a point of, okay, this is what we're going to go with, those talks were off, because you've already got, this is what we're going to go with. And I think that's kind of the problem, because again, there was multiple occasions. This is where, are you in or you out? You in or you out? And then everybody was in, then they got to a point of no return, and that's where we're kind of at. But I think, it's just too late in the game for that. I don't think that's something that we can see that down the road. I think 21, 22, you can easily see more of a collective teams from other places coming in, but that's down the road.
I was going to say, I think as the league goes on, 21, 22 onwards, I think expect the league to get bigger, not smaller, when it comes to teams.
Yes, and again, going forward, and I can tell you this, and you and I both know this, we've worked hard. We work hard behind the scenes, we do. And we're committed to this league. This league will be back to where it was with 8, and I guarantee you're not far down the road once COVID's done. You're going to see a 9th and 10th team. You're going to see it sooner than later, and you're going to look back at this show and go, "Oh, they said that," and we're going to look back and say it's okay. We all came through this. We all came through this. ABL needs to focus time and energy on this. Yes. The 6 teams we have, and can return the focus to Auckland and GK. Yes. I think that's kind of their point. I think they will. I mean, GK kind of takes care of itself, the Geelong Korea, because they can, again, that's a different model. It's and then I think, and that's why I think they will, you'll see something from that when the season, or toward the end of the season. Again, they can refocus, because that's going to be the biggest thing is, partner 2, 2021, or I'm sorry, 21-22, you're going to need a real big heavy reset to get this thing back to a non-COVID situation anyway. So yeah, it's going to be focused all hands on deck then. So yeah, good point. Boy, this is good stuff, guys. You guys are really good. A lot of some of this stuff I missed. A lot of stuff. One more point too, partner. And we read this in the release. I'm of the understanding that, are you of the understanding as well, when you read that release, what I read, and the line says something about, it sounds like there was some money involved to help the Tuatara as well, from the government. Is that what you're reading? Is that what the release sort of indicated?
That's what, I guess that's what the release indicates, that there's money from the government. So by all accounts, there was every option to play. But look, I think it's, and as you said before, DV and divorce court, there's usually the one side, the other side, the truth. It sort of sits somewhere in the middle. Look, I think it's when it comes to the Auckland thing, from what I'm led to believe, there was every option to play. I think they had every ability to play, but in the end, their risk assessment was it was too risky, and I don't think you can really, in the COVID world, you don't think you can really hold that too badly. But so there's from what I'm led to believe, I think there was some government assistance from the New Zealand government, but we don't know. That's only things that people have told us.
Chris. Yeah, we believe, just reading through the lines there, because apparently that was going to be helpful. Again, this is the sad part about it is, and again, I said this to my daughters, to everybody. It doesn't matter what business you're in, whether it be sport, restaurants, Uber driver, you name it, ditch digger. You are affected by this pandemic, and that we already knew that going in. Now the other things behind it, you can, I don't know, but this was not all COVID. That's what I'm saying to you. The way the release states, and the reason I say that is because last week we talked about right here on the show. I told you there's no reason for them to be upset. They should be fine. They're going to be fine. Well, my thinking is, why would you go in the papers and say we're worried that the Australian Baseball League might be upset with us and their members if there was not a reason for them to be upset with you? That's my question. That's am I off base there? Am I crazy?
No, I think you're spot on. I think look, who knows? I'm sure at some point we'll have a sit down. We'd love to have the Tuatara guys on here. Yeah, it's yeah, and Robert's spot on. That money was hosting the international conference. So whether that money was extended on or not, again, we don't know. Like, we'll love to have someone from the Tuatara on next week as well, just to sort of clarify what their side is. If we have Cam Vale and we have someone from the Tuatara,
yes, we'll do that. We can do that.
But
we'll try. We'll try. And Chris says it's and again. That's what I believed last week. Now, I came right here last week. I even put up one of our calls, the pin on Twitter. I said that there was no way in the world they'd be canceled or whatever because of what's going on. And I still stand by that notion that if it's all COVID, we're all good. But I just, there's something that I just don't get. And that's my worry. And that's what I was mentioning, that some of the posts on ABL fans, you have some folks saying, oh my gosh, your treatment of them is terrible, which it looks, but you don't come out and say the things you say unless you've got a reason. Am I right? I mean, well, if you're the president of a league, you don't say that unless there's a reason, right?
Yeah. I think the only president that does that is the president of the United States. I think he comes out.
He got voted out. This just did. He got voted out, folks. So,
yeah, look, I wouldn't have thought you would not go with a press release. And you and I have spent enough time reading, writing, distributing press releases in our time to understand you wouldn't go, scorched earth, for want of a better term, unless you had a fairly good reason to. So
I can tell you right now, when I had to write a press release, I mentioned the T-bone sale. I had to write a press release for the owner, who sent me all the details about how to deal with the government. The city government was wanting to move the team, lock the team out, and I had to write the release to respond. And his response is very political, but it was very pointed. But I had to write that release, and it got contentious. One of the releases I wrote, I wrote it with his approval. It was his quotes, was contentious, but there was a reason behind it, because there was some disagreement there, and we had to go out there and go scorched earth ourselves to protect the T-bone brand. So I've been there, and I don't think you don't write those things and put it out in worldwide in this case, unless there's really a reason. That's my concern.
Well, you're spot on, David, because it's not great for the brand. Like, everyone knows that it's not a great move from no one wants to see that kind of press release, but there has to be far more to it to give it some legs. But
Chris adds the quarantine. I kind of wonder too, why is the quarantine thing so expensive? I just don't get that. That to me is driving. I've had to look at that myself. It's going to face me.
It's 14 days at a hotel, and Jaden down there as well said, currently as we sit here on November the 13th, there still is no Trans-Tasman bubble, so there is no. Yeah. If you go, I don't know how I'm assuming you have to quarantine for 14 days. So look, I think at the end of the day, I think from a risk assessment point of view, the Tuatara may well have gone, yep, we can play. I think we can pull it off. And I think at the last minute, they've probably gone, well, if there's this flare up in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, maybe, our players get stuck in Australia, whatever, maybe, I don't know. But I think we sit and Dan, and as we sort of wrap up what's been a very good interactive show, DV, bring fans for...
We can't go short even when we have content. We can't go short when we have no content. We're that's just us, man. That's what we do. That's what we do. But I think it's good stuff. And I again,
maybe have another town hall. We'll have Cam Vale on next week and have a bit of a town hall meeting after that to digest. So we might,
no doubt. Let's do that.
And that'd be good. But I've got to run, DV, because I've got to get to a meeting. But appreciate all your hard work, sir. Appreciate everyone commenting, and keep the conversation going. And
we'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, mate. We'll let him go. Let Paul Morgan go. I'll stay here with you guys a few minutes. If you guys want to answer any questions, we'll do that for you. I'll kind of roll through these guys. And again, if you, I know a couple of y'all did try to jump on. I don't know why we couldn't get you on, but if you do have something you do here. Want to say the show is Talking Baseball Australia Live. We're baseball's best mate. Paul had a meeting to go to. He's in the West. I'm in North America now, so my day is been over for a couple hours now. Let me go into a couple of these questions here. There are vouchers that have to be applied for and granted. Yes, there's still a lot of Kiwis wanting to get back to New Zealand. So the spots in quarantine are super limited. Air New Zealand flights have limited flights as a result. Yes, I can tell you, I check every day, just damn nearly, on flights from the States into all points, whether it be New Zealand, Australia, to getting in somehow, some way. With Qantas and Air New Zealand, both in limited runs. Well, not Qantas, not making any international runs, and limited flights for those. It's a lot. It's hard, and you're going to have to fly, either an American airline, or in this case, American Airlines or United, or possibly Delta, or one of the Middle East carriers, or perhaps an Asian carrier. The Emirates are through the roof. I mean, business class fares are usually expensive anyway. But we're talking coach fares I've seen anywhere between $4,000, $5,000 round trip U.S. And it's fluctuating a little bit depending where you go, but it's all pretty standard. I appreciate it. I'm glad you joined us, Chris, as well. Very good. My mitigation strategy was elimination strategy. Very, very similar. Cargo ship, Dan, you can do it. Yeah, cargo ship. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to save this till next week, but can you guys look behind me? I'm going to close with a couple things. I'm going to give you guys two really good things. Can I do that? Can you give me a little leeway here? I'm going to play a video for you that I think's fun. I'll save it. I'm going to save the video to next week because I want to save it for Paul to hear it. But I'm going to give you guys some goodwill. I love what I do. I've met Paul. We've become best mates through this game. A lot of you folks on here I've met in person. I've become mates with through this game. The blessed opportunity to share the love of this game and the love of sport with you guys. I woke up yesterday morning to a package that was delivered very early. We were up early here in our house, and I had a package. Where is it? It's actually the wrapping still below, but I look over my shoulder. I'm going to move this camera here. And look over my shoulder. Can you guys see that? See that? I can't really focus. Let me do my big coconut. There we go. See all that gear right there? This is what is special about our league and about our game and about our mateship about this game. And this is what makes our show in the ABL and these member teams. We're all rivals, but we're all friends. We're all mates. We're all close. Mick Warren from Melbourne sent me a care package, or just a cool package with Aces cap, Aces kit, 10 tans, which are hard to get in North America. You can get them, but they're hard to get. It's kind of like on the black market. You got to go out there and find them at alleys somewhere and pay a guy $20 to get you some 10 tans. Got some more snacks. Got cool things for my wife. Got koozies and water bottle, a little bag. It's been a hard week in North America. We had an election in the United States Tuesday, a week ago. Polarizing, a lot of cancel culture, a lot of pointing fingers, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of angst. We have COVID, anxiety, all that. And it's something I always say on our show, and I say it on my shows in North America about being better tomorrow than we were today, showing more love tomorrow than we do today. And I was taken back when I got that package and opened it yesterday from the Warren family there in Victoria. It's what it's all about. It's being bigger than oneself. And yes, we're going to miss the Tuatara. We're going to miss them dearly. Miss Geelong, Korea. But we're not going to forget our mates, those fans and people we've met along the way. Those smiles along the way. Those Tuatara smiles, we're not going to forget them. We're going to do better in the long run. We're going to get through this thing somehow. And the reason I know that, as I'm evangelical with you guys here, because I got a package in the mail, unsolicited in the mail, basically just saying, thank you. Hey, mate, appreciate you. Appreciate what you and Paul are doing. Appreciate you guys. And I appreciate you people and you guys joining us here. And I appreciate the passion It's going to be okay because we have people like that, people like you. I believe that kind of gesture is what's going to carry us through this whole mess and make our league better in the long run. That mateship, that agreeing to sometimes disagree on things. Imports versus no imports, 9 versus 7 innings. Your team sucks, my team's good, whatever. Dang it, I hate the Heat. Dang it, I hate the Aces, whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all here to grow the game and just be better to each other. So hopefully that's what we'll do. So I throw that out there. I'll give you guys one more little thing here. Just had a memory come up from this time last year, Australia beating Team USA in Premier 12, an exciting game. See, yeah, we have something, and that's going to happen again. Without telling you too much, there's an exciting announcement coming down the road that's going to make things like that be more likely to happen than not, okay? Just mark my words, okay? There's some good things for this league ahead. There's some good things for our game in Australia ahead. There's some good things for the national team ahead and development of our players. A lot of really good things happening. What did I get you? Mom, you're in Indiana, Mom. By the way, this was the shirt I wore at the live show in Elkhart about a month ago, Mom. So anyway, I've been almost 12 months since last season. I just want to get back in the ballpark. Jared, I'm right there with you. My last ballpark experience up until the National League Championship Series 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, and also a Little League game I went to about a month before that, was in Canberra at the Fort. And Paul and I were at the Fort. Waza and company, and I guess Chris wasn't there that night. We had a great time doing the playoff game there in the ACT. It's been too long, man. Been too long for all of us. So I feel you. I mean, I want to get in the park, high five you guys, come in maybe calling a game for the Heat and have you guys come say hi and say, hope we kick your butt tonight. And I'll say, hey, good on you, mate. Good on you. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Last call on questions, comments. Our show next Friday. Again, Cam Vale will be joining us, I've been told. He's committed to that, and I'm holding his feet to the fire. We'll also reach out to someone from Auckland, perhaps Mr. Wood, someone. We'll try to work that out. Content-wise, it may go long again, but we'll work it out somehow, some way. Our show airs every Friday morning in the West at 7 a.m., North America, that's 5 p.m. because now the time change. We learned that last week. And adjust your clocks accordingly. 10 in Victoria, in New South Wales, and across that direction. We love your questions and comments. Please share them. Again, I appreciate you guys trying to join us today. We did put that up there to get you guys on. Know why it didn't work for Chris, but we had a little trouble with it, but all good. But the green room was open, and if I'll give you guys a last call on that. You do want to jump on. We'd love to have you guys do that. We are baseball's best mate for a reason, because we believe that you guys are the best baseball mates in the world, the fans of the Australian Baseball League. So last call on questions, comments, last call. And again, share this, follow us on social media. Our website, I keep talking about it, but Paul and I removed some moving pieces, but it's ready to go. I got to get that thing launched, but we got to get some slow news days first, right? We hadn't had slow news in a while. Yeah, it should be interesting next week to hear Cam, but it will be Chris. And appreciate you guys. Again, thank every one of you for joining us here. A big thank you. Again, I say this all my heart. The reason I believe we're the best is because you're the best. The fans of the Australian Baseball League, the fans who cheer on the Aces, the Heat, the Tuatara, the Bandits, the Geelong Korea, who I'm missing, Calvary, the Giants. Did I miss anybody? Oh, the Blue Sox. All you folks. And the reason I believe we're the best because y'all are the best, the fans of the Australian Baseball League. Anthony, appreciate you as well. Again, you can catch us on replay. We're glad you are. And again, share this if you'd like. We'd love to have you share it. And on Twitter and on Facebook as well. We're always there. By the way, we're also going to be pulling this audio in a couple of weeks. We're going to be doing a Perth-only podcast. When we post the podcast for the Perth Heat, we'll also post this audio for you folks that want to listen in your leisure in the audio, okay? A big thanks to everybody that joined us. By the way, Adam Dobb, by the way, and all the rest of you folks that commented along the way, big thank you. and we will see you guys next week. Please be safe, be careful, and I tell you, as I mentioned a moment ago, let's love more tomorrow than we did today. Let's be better tomorrow than we were today. We'll be better fans tomorrow than we were today. We're all going to get better. We're going to fight on, and this thing's going to be just fine. Again, thanks for joining us. Let's put that to close up. I hate this part, but we'll see you guys next week. Blessings as always. Until next time, have a good weekend, everybody.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its root. Root, root, for the